The internet is a very large and vast place. There's so much to the internet that it would be literally impossible for anyone to consume everything it has to offer. Due to this, there are many things that slip through the cracks. Many websites are even censored by Google, making them even harder to find. But what if I told you I found one of these sites that slipped through the cracks? In fact, I couldn't find a site on Google at all. I had to use DuckDuckGo, as if it was forbidden to access on Google. This site is none other than theforbiddentruth.mysite.com. So what is the forbidden truth? That was the question that I asked when I stumbled on it a while back while researching Timothy McVeigh. If you don't know who Timothy McVeigh is, he was one of the terrorists who caused the Oklahoma City bombing. Now, there is a lot to the Oklahoma City bombing, and that may require an entire video on its own in the future. But it was when I clicked on the website's link thinking it was his manifesto, I instead saw something odd yet truly disturbing. Hello, you have reached the Timothy McVeigh tribute page of the Manifesto of the Forbidden Truth. Thank you for taking the time to reflect upon the true reality of Timothy McVeigh, a tortured victim, creation of the 20th and 21st century American society. If you can find that the sentiments and revelations of truth expressed at this page resonate positively within your core conscious experience of life, you might want to consider immersing yourself in the Manifesto of Forbidden Truth. This 200,000 plus word manifesto is devoted to exposing and dissecting all of the forbidden truths of humanity, revealing it to be a diseased, evolving, and doomed species unworthy of infesting planet Earth. You may begin your journey here. This is Timothy McVeigh, tortured victim, creation of the diseased and deranged American military and political system. Born innocent and pure, and evil and malevolently brainwashed him into agreeing to commit mass murder of total strangers on its behalf, and yet the same breath insanely chooses to demonize him now for having committed an additional act of mass murder that lacked the permission of the genocidal American military system. Let us for a moment and carefully consider the absolutely transcendental nature of martyr Timothy McVeigh's actions and the profoundly valuable lessons and demonstration of top-level forbidden truths that he has revealed to us. The revelation graces us not only via his public actions, but his remarkably insightful and beautifully stated quotes below. Timothy McVeigh, a place of high honor among those of us who seek and embrace truth, because with perfect and crystal clear clarity, he exposes the American military system for what it is, a genocidally malevolent structure of the government whose primary purpose and function is not to protect the homeland, not to defend the national territory borders of this country upon its original inhabitants, not even to initiate and wage war against other nations for the purpose of gaining territory and or brutally compelling regime change. No, the overt and absolutely primary purpose of the American military system is to legitimize and facilitate the serial mass murder of demonized human beings who are not a part of the American citizen slaves by tortured, victimized, and homicidally enraged American child slaves who have been born into and raised within this diseased, deranged, and genocidally evil society. Keep in mind, this is only a snippet of this tribute page, and might I say, this is a little unhinged to say the least. But what does this mean? What does he mean by child slaves or a genocidally malevolent structure? In this video, we will be diving deep to answer these questions. In every article that is linked, he tells all new visitors to access the main gateway. As stated here, it tells all to read the terms of service. Yes, there is a terms of service for this website. The terms of service basically say he is not responsible if you get offended, and that if you work for censorship organizations, you cannot access the website. Plus, he said that this should be for personal use and no other. Well, I'm here now, so I guess this is personal use. I'm not going to make any money off of this video, that's for sure. But most interesting is what you are greeted to when accessing the main gateway. This is what you are greeted to. Text that says, "Welcome. This is the manifesto of Forbidden Truth, the most unique and dangerous website on planet Earth. Here within these pages, all of your most sacred societal myths, dogmas, doctrines, delusions, derangement, and torn asunder, to be replaced by the forbidden truths that shall be graciously revealed." And underneath is a Charles Manson quote. "To keep control, we are schooled, taught, and programmed against our own natures by the fear instilled in us by grown-ups and authority figures. And it is all a lie. We are warned not to lie, and that it is bad to lie. But the people who are telling us that are lying to us all the time." Charles Manson. So already we're seeing what this website is about. The website and blog is made up of 17 pages, each of these delving deep into the seer of the forbidden truth. That is what he calls himself. So from now on, in referring to the writer of these articles, we shall call him the seer of the forbidden truth, or the seer from now on. The main idea that encapsulates all the claims made by the seer is that society is brutal, and that society itself, at the moment of our birth, seeks to brutalize and torture us. Society does this by creating social structures, these being certain governments, the idea of God, and as he calls it, the sacred family unit. He believes that all people are technically slaves to the society. However, he believes children, most of all, are slaves to the society. The reason for this is because children are forced to live with their family and are therefore legal slaves. For example, custodial laws and the fact that parents can make decisions for their children, even homeschool them, is forcing them against their will to do things they don't want to do, or to live with their parents when they don't want to live with them. He proposes the idea also that parents use their pent-up anger and rage and unknowingly pushes it onto their children. They use their child to unleash the pent-up rage and anger that society itself pushed onto them. In fact, why don't we describe it in their own words? The forbidden truth definition of how society judges and defines all children is as follows: a subhuman, officially decreed, worthless piece of owned property that has no legal, civil, moral, or human rights, and that exists solely to serve as a slave and poison container to his or her creators, sacred family unit, and to adult society in general. As you can see, he doesn't look at familial life as a positive, but instead as a negative. In fact, he not only thinks parents do this, but society as a whole. In fact, one of the claims he makes is that when a child is harmed or murdered, that society does not mourn that child because the life of the child mattered. No, it is because when a child is murdered or killed, it decreases the slave population and takes away slaves in the country. Yes, I am for real serious when he claims that. This is where we get into the more disturbing part of the website as a whole. You see, the seer believes that the reason society criminalizes serial killers or murderers is because it decreases the amount of slaves in the country. This is where we get into the more bizarre and creepy parts of the site. I will warn you, for the rest of this video, we will be talking about some strange and dark things, so viewer discretion is advised. The disturbing claim from the seer is that we should not punish people for committing murder or worse, pedophilia, and the other insane crimes one might commit. Take John Wayne Gacey, for example, also known as a clown murderer, went on to kill and do unspeakable things to countless numbers of children. He paints him as sympathetic, saying that society and his families abused and tortured him, destroying him basically. This in turn caused him to become the monster we know. He says that he is a tortured victim creation of American society, murdered by the most evil and diseased society on planet Earth. Your society chose to blindly enslave John as a helpless child to his S-word creator, who proceeded to engage in the ritual torture of John throughout his childhood, beating him regularly, throwing him across rooms, emotionally terrorizing John by telling him he was stupid, dumb, sissy, instead of falling on your knees and begging John to forgive you. You diseased creatures had the audacity to lock him in a cage. This type of rhetoric that we should be sympathetic to criminals or begging for forgiveness is a common theme in his work. While one may assume he thinks their actions are good or praiseworthy, like I did at one point, this is not so. You see, he believes that due to the fact that the U.S. government has things like legal slavery, or we go overseas in U.S. foreign policy to commit countless atrocities, that we shouldn't punish or appall such actions from serial killers, murderers, which anyone with common sense should say that no, we should appall such actions. He also says, How could you appall things like murder when you in society support things like abortion and death penalty? While I do agree abortion is murder, since I am pro-life, however, I don't think you can compare putting criminals who purposely murder people down is equivalent to murder itself. You know what I'm saying? One is getting punishment for their actions, while the other is taking the life of an innocent human being that doesn't deserve it, nor does they have to have their life taken from them for betterment of society. Like I said before, he makes these points over and over again, saying that society pushes people to these behaviors, therefore we cannot judge their actions as abhorrent. He often does this by praising Charles Manson's philosophy that presents his same views. Manson believed that people are what their society makes of them, so they are just a reflection of what society they live in. So when someone murders someone, it just means that they are reflecting society back at them. It is a very strange philosophy, but there are other things that are worthy of note in the seer's thought. He also claims that CP is not child abuse, so any video or drawing or whatever he believes is perfectly okay to continue to consume. This is him explaining his worldview on said subject. But even as most types of P word are decreed to be quite legal, CP is brutally demonized, decreed completely illegal, and people who sell, trade, or even possess CP are declared evil monsters and subjected to severely punitive punishment by society. Why is this so? Not because your societies care about children or want to protect them, but rather because your societies choose to overtly practice genocidally abusive public policy that serves to ensure that millions of children are brutally tortured throughout their childhoods. While at the same time completely refusing to admit or face up to this forbidden truth, the use of misdirection becomes necessary when trying to cover up and deny this type of immensely evil, completely hidden core societal policy, and this is where CP, among other ploys, comes in very handy. If I were to go to a crowded shopping mall and ask for 1,000 people that if they saw the following question, is CP harmful to children, the vast majority, at least 975 out of 1,000 would reply in the affirmative. This is because you humans have lost the ability to think rationally, understand and analyze questions and ideas in the same manner, thanks to having been subjected to a lifetime of lie-based brainwashing and invalid word term definition. You cannot even analyze the term P in such a way as to consider the true meaning. Instead, you immensely and blindly grasp and cling to the societal brainwashing of CP hurting children. The reality is that CP is itself completely harmless to actual children. P word consists of words, drawing, photographs, etc. These images are not alive and have no true reality, therefore cannot be harmed. It is true that the creation of some types of CP, not the P word itself, but rather its creation, does involve the hurting of children. Only CP that involves physical attack, intrusive imposition upon actual living children, that is P word, that is photographed or videotaped or otherwise recorded, causes any direct harm to any child. The amount of CP that involves this type of attack / intrusion is relatively small. I'm going to say small percentage-wise. Most CP involves written stories, hand drawings, computer-generated drawings, or alteration of pictures using a computer program in which absolutely no real children are harmed in any way. So as you can see there, he does say that it is harmful to children or if it's a drawing, but he's okay with drawn images, which is still disgusting and horrible. So I do have concerns about him as a person. Now that we got his main philosophy out of the way, who is the seer? Well, the seer is unknown. I could not find anything about him other than what is available on his site. He does, however, paint us a clear picture of how he came to believe these things and gave us some background on his life. He says this about himself in his About section. I am a human being. I live on planet Earth. I am a high school dropout who got a general equivalency diploma years later. I have no other formal education. I was born into that society that I was born into chose to sanction, enable, facilitate, and cause me to be brutally tortured and traumatized throughout my entire childhood. I am a tortured victim creation of the society that I was born into and raised up within. Throughout my entire childhood, I was emotionally, sexually, and physically tortured. I never experienced or enjoyed a single positive, empathetic, or caring relationship or had any nurturing, caring contact with any living thing throughout my childhood. I first began to consciously recognize and embrace the forbidden truth at the age of 6. That initial realization concerned the insane God myth. I courageously accepted the fact I would die and that my death would result in the experience of nothingness for all the rest of eternity despite this horrific realization. I stout-heartedly refused to accept any of the false comfort that the insane God myth might have offered me. Beginning at age 6 and throughout my entire lifetime, I have bathed in the glorious glow of the forbidden truth, embracing and accepting all of life's truthful horrors. Between the ages of 13 and 14, I made a series of private, intensely personal promises to myself. I refer to those personal promises as sacred vows. One of those sacred vows I made was that I would never engage in any sexual contact with any human being for as long as I live, that I would never trust any living thing other than myself the rest of my life. Yet another of my sacred vows was that I would always embrace the truth of life. No matter how horrific or unbearable it may be, I do not choose to reveal any of my other sacred vows to you humans. And I'm very proud to state that I have honored and kept all my sacred vows with 100% perfection throughout my entire life thus far, and I intend to continue keeping and honoring all these sacred vows until my dying breath. I'm a reflection of society that created me. I am a victim of society and will always be a victim of society. I had and have exactly one life, one chance to exist for all eternity. The society that I was born into deliberately chose, with complete malice, afterthought, to deliberately enable, encourage, facilitate, and cause me, a total helpless baby, to be subjected to an eternity of never-ending torment throughout my entire childhood. This is the single most profound forbidden truth as far as my own personal true reality that you will find at this website. That is all I have to say about myself. This website was not created for the purpose of revealing details of my personal childhood torment to you humans. You are not worthy. It was created for the purpose of revealing societally forbidden truths and declaring these truths publicly, that I have lived my entire private life courageously embracing. I honor and sanctify myself. The unconditional love and acceptance that I have for myself will be touched on in a Forbidden Truth essay dealing with the issue of love in general elsewhere at this website. In conclusion to the question of what/who are you, the answer is I am nothing more and nothing less the crystal clear reflection of a tortured child born into and raised up within a society that has, was, and is today utterly and genocidally evil, completely diseased, whose very foundational core founded and sustained upon deranged lies, myths, and hypocrisy. This manifesto of forbidden truth exists because I exist out of all the countless billions of helpless children that your societies have chosen and continue to choose with malice, afterthought, to torment and torture. I have emerged to deliver forbidden truth to you. If you choose to read this text of this website, your society succeed in breaking and destroying your children. You broke me. You condemned me to a lifetime of torment. You chose to maliciously turn me into a tortured victim. You robbed me of the only life that I will ever have for all of eternity. But you did not destroy me. I live triumphant, bathed in the glow of the forbidden truth, and as I have stated above, these texts exist because I exist. Lengthy, I know, but this does give us a clear picture of who he is. He obviously has had much trauma in his life and truly does believe that his philosophy is good and beneficial for people when it's mostly just continuous, overly long essays. So what are his remedies for serial killers and the like? Well, he gives us many, but I'll look at the one that I find most interesting. As stated before, he pretty much believes all parents, or most, are child abusers who use their kids to push their rage and anger onto. So in order to solve this problem, we basically need a surveillance state to watch and monitor parents. Yeah, well, it's a bit more complicated than that. He believes that we should do more testing and parental tests and to make these mandatory. He believes with some arbitrary number that 99.99999% of child abuse will be stopped. No source or anything, he just claims this. He also claims that we should ban homeschooling as well, cause it forces kids to be with their parents more. Yeah, a little kooky to say the least. So in conclusion, what do I think of the website? The more I think about it, the more I realize that this is really just ramblings of a mentally deranged man, sadly. An anti-natalist who has been doing this for years, all the way back to 2004, and his most recent posting being back in 2019, saying kind things about the Christchurch shooting. Why do I do this to myself? So that's about all there is to the website. It is disturbing, and I will say that it is questionable to say the least. I'm worried about what he's into and what he is doing now, due to the fact he says kind things about serial killers, and of course the idea that drawing and other forms of CP are okay. But that is all for today's video. If you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, see y'all later. Well, it seems that your truth wasn't very truthful at all, it seems.